Hi, this is Jeannie Ortega with Breathecast, and you're watching BC Pulse. And today in studio, we have the honor to have a wonderful pastor here in New York City, Chris Durso. He's a young adult youth pastor at Christ Tabernacle, and he is doing incredible things for the Lord. I'm going to let him kind of tell you more about it, but Pastor Chris, we're so excited to have you here. For real.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I am just so excited to find out about the stuff that you're doing. You just had an incredible conference here in New York City, sold out, packed to capacity with a bunch of young adults. But before we get into that, can you tell us about the revolution that is the Misfits that you created here in the city?
Yeah, that's so kind for you to say. For us, Misfit is a group of young people that meet every Friday night at 8 p.m. at Christ Tabernacle. We are the youth ministry and young adult ministry at Christ Tabernacle. And about 7 years ago, I got handed the spot to be the youth pastor. And so that's what I did. I just started to lead the youth ministry. And at first, it went really, really bad until God intervened, stepped in, dealt with me, and then kind of turned this thing around. And to be honest with you, we like to act like we know what we're doing, but we really don't know what we're doing. It is completely organic. It's completely a move of God. It's all Him. Unsure, just honored to be in the position we're in to see what's happening happen.
And what does Misfit mean? Like, it's definitely a movement here in New York City. I mean, you walk down the streets and you see kids in New York City, rocking Misfit T-shirts, and really, it's a declaration of their stance and their walk with God. So, what's a Misfit?
Yeah. So 1 Corinthians talks about Misfit. It says that we are the Messiah's misfit. So really, it's just really another term for a Christian, another term for Christ follower. Some of the definitions that we use is one who's uncomfortable with his or her surroundings and is seen to be disturbingly different than others. So our whole take on it is, well, let's be uncomfortable with the things in this world that should bother us, but let's not just talk about them. Let's do something about it. If you see that there's an issue, if you see that there's a problem, don't just mention it, run towards it. Something we always say is you're a part of the issue until you're willing to run towards it. You can't just mention it. You can't just talk about it. You got to take it head on. So for us, that's our take on it, and that's what we want to see happen all throughout New York City and the world. We want to see Christians step up, stand up for Jesus, and help take on the problems that do exist and solve them for the better sake of the church, better sake of the gospel.
The incredible thing is that I was fortunate to attend the Misfit conference this year, and
glad to have you.
And there was over 1,400 people in the spot. I mean, it was packed to capacity. Yeah. I've never seen anything like this in New York. I'm from New York. Never seen anything like this in New York for Jesus. Yeah. But I also saw there were so many people that were visiting as well. Yeah. There was people from all over the United States, and it's just definitely something that's changing the culture here in New York City. How does that feel as you grew up in New York as well, right? How does that feel to see that something that God entrusted you with is really impacting the culture here in New York City?
Yeah, I mean, one, it's very surreal. It's mind-blowing, to be honest with you. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm gifted at and what I'm not gifted at. And to see all this happening, I know it has nothing to do with any of my abilities or strength. It's all God. So to be honest with you, it keeps me very humble. When we first started the youth ministry, it did go bad because of my pride, because I was doing what I thought was best. Well, in my best, it failed. And then God started to tell me, no, you need to do it like this, you need to do it like that. And they weren't my ideas, they weren't things that I was coming up with. It was straight from God. And it was through that obedience that we saw success. So now, for me, my wife, our team, we're very honest. We know that on our own we weren't able to do any of this. So we just stay in the position that we're in, listening to God as He feeds us the information. That's what we're following, His instruction, His direction. So to see, yeah, it's mind-blowing. The feeling, play your part right. That's what's going through my mind. Always make sure you give credit back to Jesus, because it has nothing to do with you.
So the formula is definitely basically not having one and just really entrusting God to do it.
I'm all about structure and systems, but absolutely, it's all about trusting God.
Incredible. And you know, it is really impacting the culture here. And you have a book called Misfit?
I do.
Well, if you plug it for us, because I just found out about it, and this is a way that people that are not familiar with what's going on, they can kind of pick it up and find out.
So Misfit, the book is available on Amazon, iTunes, Barnes & Nobles, Borders. It's titled Misfit, Dealing with Your God-Given Discomfort. And the book is written to the individual on their journey, on their life, being able to embrace everything it is that God has for them so that they could take it and run with it. I mean, the idea of the book was just to encourage somebody. Just encourage somebody to walk and operate in their purpose. And we've heard so many testimonies of people that have been impacted by it. At this point, it's on its 7th print, so it's doing pretty well. Came out a few years ago, but the truth is we haven't done any advertisement for it. We wrote it, put it out there, left it, and that's probably not the best approach, but that was the approach that we took only because we didn't know any better.
Well, I mean, you know, God is obviously just doing it on his own.
Yeah, he is.
So I want to wrap it up, but I want to talk quickly about just the unconventional young pastor movement that I kind of see. And it's not really a movement. It's just something that's happening in the culture of Christianity with yourself, your friends, Pastor Rich Wilkerson Jr., Chad Veach, Todd Cruz. We're just seeing it's just different. It's not like church, like old church, you know. It's not like maybe what our parents were used to. What do you think? Just kind of, I mean, look at you. You're so trendy and you're cool and you're just you're open to.
My wife dresses me. All credit to her.
That's awesome. But you know, you guys are breaking the mold. And, you know, I see it happening from the leaders first and downward, and it's perfect for the title Misfit. What do you think that means for the culture in the United States, the culture of Christianity? Like, what do you think is there a shift taking place?
There's definitely a shift taking place. I think it's a healthy thing. To be honest with you, growing up in church, I know this is something that me, Chad, and Rich, we've spoken about before. Growing up in church, you always thought you had to look a certain way, talk a certain way, worship a certain way, dress a certain way, and if you did anything outside of those things, then God wouldn't hear you, God wouldn't hear your prayers, you weren't allowed to come to church. And I just think everyone started to ask the question, well, why? Well, it doesn't say it in the Bible, why? And we were all gracious enough to have amazing pastors that saw that that wasn't true neither. So they allowed us and freed us to say, just come as you are. You know, the Bible says, he who wins souls is wise. I think about a young person coming off the street that has never heard of church, never heard of God, does not understand church culture. They just dress how they dress. They look how they look. So I would hate for them to come into an environment where we're sharing Jesus and they're so stuck up or caught up on when I don't look like anybody else in the room. And as a result, they can't listen. So for me, we're never telling anyone how to dress, what uniform to put on. Just come as you are, because the truth is, those are the things that really don't matter. The Bible talks about if you're willing to give everything you have to Jesus and follow him, then you are a Christ follower, you're accepted into the kingdom, and you are now a Christian. But the Bible also says, come as you are. And I don't know why we throw that verse away. For me, I do want to see a group of young people, young adults, rise up and just be who they're called to be, dressing how they want to dress, looking how they look. As long as they're following Jesus, it's all good in my book.
Amen. That's incredible. Well, Pastor Chris, we really thank you. Honestly, what I see, I call it a revolution because I really feel like God is doing something new. And in this generation, there's a boldness and just a fearlessness that I feel like God is definitely, you know, he can use that for his kingdom and his glory.
Absolutely.
So we thank you for being very instrumental in that with Misfit and just everything you're doing in New York City. And Misfit is the book you can find on Amazon. And Pastor Chris, you are under your incredible parents, Michael and Maria Durso, incredible at the Christ Tabernacle. So look them up. We're so grateful to have you here at Breathecast, and we're looking forward to more in the future. Thank you for watching, guys. This is Jeannie Ortega with Breathecast Pulse, Pastor Chris Durso.